Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 2 here of TT's Talk Corner. I am your host, System, and with me today is T-Gun from Team It's GoSu, whose contract ends soonish, so maybe we'll see a change. But anyway, we'll leave that for now. So T-Gun, how's your day been so far?
I woke up an hour ago and got a pentakill on League of Legends with Olaf, so...
I like it.
I
still can't believe it, man. I just don't understand.
My day's here, right? From here, it's just gonna... It can't get better. You can't top that. Like, that's the pinnacle.
Just go back to sleep, dude, and then just try again tomorrow.
Just end the day. End it right now.
I like it. So, for those who don't know, this is basically a show just kind of like JP's Real Talk, where we sit down with the players and whoever really we pick up and just ask them basically the gist about what their life in esports is and how they are going about it and all that good stuff. We also take community questions from you guys, so head over to the forums and post questions for the next episode. I'm sure we'll try and pick the best of that, and that is about the gist of it. So let's kick it off here. Let's go back to the original roots. T-Gun, tell me about your backstory and your history. Like, what exactly got you started into StarCraft 2, or mainly even competitive gaming? And did you initially plan on ever becoming a professional gamer, or did it just kind of happen?
Alright, so we'll start with that monster of a question from the start. I played sports since I was about 5.
Yeah.
I played soccer for 7 odd years, and then I played tennis for another 5, 6 years, until I was 18, and then I had a really bad knee injury, which I should have got surgery on, but didn't, and that pretty much ended competitive sport for me. And when I finished high school, I was going to take a year off. I wasn't going to go straight into uni. I was going to take a gap year and just like actually sit down and play tennis as competitively as possible, train every day, you know, do stuff like that. And I didn't, and I've always regretted that. And then StarCraft 2 came out, and I wasn't planning on playing professionally initially. I just wanted to play it because a bunch of my friends were also getting it, and I've always been competitive. And I figured Brood War was you know, as competitive as it is, StarCraft 2 is going to follow its footsteps, of course. So, yeah, I got it, and I started playing. I was pretty good, and the first time I realized I was actually playing really well, I was actually in a 2v2 game. This is way back when, long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? 2010, you know? And me and my friend were playing 2v2s, and we come up against I Am Moonglade and I Am Herbs.
Yeah.
And the first thing I said was, wow, way to be a Moonglade impersonator. Because I just didn't think I'd be up at that level. He was way better than everyone in that team. And we ended up beating them, and I looked at the profile, I'm like, oh my god, it's actually Moonglade.
Nice.
I feel like a wanker, you know? But that was like the first time I ever beat anyone good.
Nice.
And then, yeah, I just started playing a lot more and focusing on StarCraft 2. At this time, I was still in uni, I was still passing all my classes, doing pretty well. And then I got an offer to join FXO if I did well in tryouts. So I practiced. That's when I kicked up my practice to pretty serious stuff, and I passed the tryouts, got into FXO, and they said they were going to send me over to Korea. And before this, I think I went to an MLG before this. I'm not sure. My memory is awful.
On your own, or did?
This was with everyone else in FXO, but this was before the acquisition of FOU.
Oh, okay, I see.
Now
Yeah.
FXO.
Was FXO your first major clan, or did?
It was the first real big team. I was in a clan called OD, which is known as Overdose. We actually did pretty well in OD. We played through a whole EC league, and then the first round of the playoffs we played EG, and we actually lost 3-4 against them. And this is back when EG was the big powerhouse team, and we lost to a team. We lost to a team, I can't remember the order, but it was something like Strife Crow, Axe, Slav, Machine, and then Hydra at the end. And I came out and I beat Strife Crow, and then I lost to Hydra, and I was like, oh my god, it's Hydra. It's the first time I've ever played him. That was pretty cool. But like, that was a real good confidence boost. They're a great clan. I always give them
Are they
shout
still around, or are they?
Oh yeah, they're still around. I still hang out in the chat. I still talk to a lot of them. They're just really nice people.
Sweet.
So I was in that before FXO, and then I went to an MLG with FXO, if I'm not mistaken. Then went over to Korea. And when I first got the offer, I was like, well, I'm not going to do what I did with competitive sport. I'm actually going to see this through. I'm not going to be able to come back to this. You know, this is something that after university probably isn't going to be available to me because everyone will be so far ahead. Not that esports will be gone. I fully believe that esports will be alive and kicking 5 years now at least. But it's just the whole, I'd have to get into it, you know, with that much time left behind. Obviously, I could do both at the same time, but not to the same effect. Plus, this is something that I really enjoy doing. It's like Pig says every time he has an interview. He gets probably paid less for the hours that he works, but when you wake up and do something that you love all day, you don't really consider it a job.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Anyway, so when I got the offer for the Korea trip,
Mm-hmm.
I decided there was absolutely no chance that I was going to turn that down, and I went over there with FXO, and it was amazing. I still to this day, I thank FXO for all they did for me. It was like they did a lot for me.
Yep.
And like it was about that time when I got really, really competitive. Before the Korea trip, I trained my schedule up. I changed my schedule up, sorry, and that's basically when I got super competitive. Which I think is what the question was. Is how did I happen into it?
How it all started. What kicked it all off.
I'm good with staying on topic.
That's alright. I kind of butted in halfway through and just like interjected with this completely random question.
That's alright. We'll just go wherever it takes us.
So, so I want to know, FXO, you said you had playoffs and stuff. What exactly was that? Like, is that to get into the FXO and then do you play like their best players or something?
It was just like they wanted to get a good gauge of where my skill was. Because ladder points and representation on ladders really, it's kind of like the BMI in that it's a good rough overview of where you are, but pro sports people, when categorized by the BMI, are something like obese. Like pro weightlifters are morbidly obese, things like that. So the ladder points are the same. It gives you a good rough overview, but it's not going to tell you exactly where your player is, especially matchup wise. So I played some in-house matches of that. Apparently I did well enough to get recruited, and then we progressed from there.
Cool. Oh, that's alright. So what exactly makes the StarCraft 2 scene so unique compared to perhaps other pro gaming scenes like LoL or FPS communities, I guess? What do you think makes the StarCraft scene so unique?
There's a few things. First of all, the skill cap of the game. StarCraft's skill cap is, and I don't think it's really arguable, a lot higher than other games.
Yeah.
That's not to say other games are easy. Of course, I played Counter-Strike for a long time. That game was insanely hard. The best Australian teams, who would frequently just absolutely dominate other Australian teams 16-0 every time, would go overseas and get dominated themselves. Like that's the skill difference there is. That's how it is. Like it's not an easy game.
Do you think that kind of translates to StarCraft as well? Do you think? Like obviously we've seen Glade head overseas just recently for IEM and actually doing pretty well. And unfortunately, Pig didn't do as well as Glade, but still showed a pretty strong showing. Do you think that's just
not as much? The difference is, in Counter-Strike, latency is important to really a silly fault. I'll put it in perspective. A lot of the Swedish teams and a lot of the pro teams over there, if they have more than 5 MS, that is laggy for them. that is very laggy for them.
Wow.
Whereas in Australia, like we'd frequently get 60, 70, 80 MS, and we'd be like, hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
This is acceptable. So that's a big issue, as well as you can't really play inter-server. Like Australians can't play the Swedish teams from Australia, whereas in StarCraft 2 you can. Like frequently you'll have all the Australian players playing on the Korean server, so it's not as big an issue. Obviously there's a culture shock when you go overseas. Korea is really, really, really different from Australia, in both a good and a bad way, as well as living in a team house does improve your results and improves your practice capabilities. So it isn't as bad. It's more the difference for excuse me.
Yeah.
The difference for League of Legends and Counter-Strike is the ping, which isn't as much of a factor in StarCraft.
Do you think, because Australians played at a C server with a 200 ping on StarCraft 2, if they go overseas to Korea or overseas to America and play in the comps, our ping's the players' pings are going to be less than what we're used to. Is it going to give kind of a boost in skill, do you think? Or not necessarily
really.
Skill, but
Super
you'll see...
Like, if you watch a lot of players, they precast a lot of their stuff. Like, they'll cast fungal growth in anticipation of where their opponent's going to be, in that half second, or in that roughly 0.2, 0.3 seconds of where you expect them to be. Because that's how you cope with latency, is you try and predict what's going to happen. When you go overseas, you play LAN. I think the hard cap of delay in the game is something like 0.16 160 ms, which translates to 0.16 seconds.
Yep.
you're not really predictive casting. You're just casting exactly where they are, where you want to cast. So there's a difference there, and you have to get used to it. It takes about a day. But it's not going to be the deciding factor if you win or lose.
Yeah.
It's just difference in practices. It's not a huge thing, like I said before.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, to get back on track, what exactly makes StarCraft 2 unique compared to everything else? Just the skill cap, you reckon?
A little bit of skill cap. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's a bunch of things. It's the fact that you're playing one-on-one, so if you lose, there's no one to blame but yourself. You can't be like, oh, my team sucked. You know, when you're in League of Legends, if you're playing top, you can't be like, oh, bottom sucked, and that's why we lost. No, that doesn't happen in StarCraft. If you lost, it's your fault. It's simple as that. It's not anything else. People will complain. I complain a lot when I lose, but at the end of the day, you go home and you're just like, man, I sucked today. Man, that wasn't great. As well as it's the only well, right now, only real competitive strategy game. Of course, in history, we had Warcraft 3 and Brood War, and a bit of CNC and all that did sort of pop up every here and there. But right now, it's the only real competitive strategy game, and I believe that's because the developers are so involved in trying to make it as balanced as possible. So that's helping it as well. Much like the developers in League of Legends throw a lot of money at it nowadays.
Yeah. Do you think that, being the fact that StarCraft 2 is a 1v1 game, as I get tangled, is a 1v1 game where, obviously, like you said before, if you play LoL or CS or something like that, your team losing or you losing a match might not be entirely your fault? Do you think that helps StarCraft players better because when they lose a game, it's like, okay, that's my fault. Let me take the time out to see where I need to improve. Whereas in a team game, you can just get pissed and go, no, it was their fault. Stuff it, whatever. Our strat shit, or you know, stuff like that. Do you think that kind of helps StarCraft?
At an amateur level, yes. At a professional level, no. At a professional level, every time your team loses, it's a team loss. Yeah. Whereas when you're just mucking around or playing at an amateur level on League of Legends, you're more likely to just throw like blame around. At a professional level, if their bottom loses, they will go back and be like, all right, this is why we lost this phase of the game. But still, at the very end of it, it's a team loss, and they're able to accept that, and that's part of the psyche for professional League of Legends, being able to accept that as a team. Even if you win your lane, if you lose the game, it's losing as a team. It's not because your opponent's screwed it up. But it is a lot easier on StarCraft 2 because you don't have to sort of cope with team mechanisms, team building. Yeah. Like having a team. And trying to work with them is a complete of a skill set. Like you have to have interpersonal skills. You have to know when you should be talking. You have to know what to say, when to say. You know, it's completely different skill set. So it does help us that we don't have to learn that. I mean, that's less things for us to focus on. So I mean, it's in response to your question, I don't think so.
Alright. So, in that kind of regard, do you think players are, obviously, players coming from an RTS background have more of an advantage when coming or transitioning over to StarCraft 2? Or do you think that a player from a team competitive scene, like LoL or whatever, transitioning over to StarCraft 2 has the same, if not different, advantages or skill sets required to be legitimately good at this game?
Did you write down that question, or was that user submitted?
That was a predetermined one. That was one of our generic questions.
It's not even a question, but whoever came from an RTS background is going to be coming from
but if you come from a CS team, you kind of have... Okay, say I used to be a 1.6 player, right? Okay, here we go.
No. Before you even do it, no. CS is completely different.
Yeah, but I know, but like you come with, you do sit there and you strat, right?
Yeah,
you come with a strategy focus in mind. If you come to StarCraft 2, you're going to be null.
Yeah, but let's put it this way then. If you come from a RTS background, you're already thinking about strategies, but you're also thinking about the macro and micro of it. When you come from a Counter-Strike background, you just think about the strategies. You don't think about having a macro and micro and everything like that. You might think of a great strategy. You might think, the Korean Sentry Immortal All-In comes with 3 Immortals and no Observer, so you could beat it with just borrowed Baneleys, and it looked really cute and stuff, and yeah, that's plausible. But you still wouldn't be able to pull it off.
That's true.
So, like, it's like, it would help you. If that was the question, would it help you? Yeah, it would help you. It definitely would, coming from any sort of competitive game to another. you're obviously going to understand how competitive it is. You're going to focus on stuff. It would help you as opposed to just coming in from nothing into StarCraft 2. But the person with the RTS background is 9 times out of 10 going to have a better advantage.
Oh. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Makes sense. So, even today, people still joke. I mean, we have MLGs running globally. We've got like ACL locally. There's millions of esports tournaments. I mean, that's just StarCraft alone. There's heaps of other stuff for completely other games and such as well. Like, a lot of people obviously still refer to esports as a joke career path, as it's just stupid. You're just playing games. What's the point in it? But now that you're well, technically a pro gamer, we could call you. How does your family feel about it? Were they reluctant at first when you said, "Hey, I'm going to play games"? And
they still don't really like it.
They still don't.
At first they were against it, and then I got sent overseas, and they were sort of warming up to it. And then earlier this year, they're like, "Oh, you haven't won anything. You should get a job." Like that's essentially what they said. They didn't say it as as brutally as that, but that's what they said. And then I won a couple tournaments, and I placed highly. And even after like WCS and all that, they're still like, "Oh, you should still get a part-time job while you do this." Like they still don't accept it as a career path, which is fair enough. I mean, the money just isn't there yet for everyone to do it. If you look at competitive tennis, even whoever's ranked number 100 is going to be making enough to live off, right? Whereas if you're ranked number 100 in StarCraft 2 career endings, I think you're probably around 15 grand. There's a website for this, I don't know, but. And people really overestimate what you get from teams. They really overestimate the salaries and how much you get from teams and stuff like that. And not everyone can do what like Stefano does when he streams. Like just turn on your stream and boom, 8K viewers, run 3 ads an hour and make enough to live off. Not everyone can do that. That's why they're so skeptical. It's such an untested market. Good comparison would be when competitive sport was just starting out, like competitive NRL. When that was just starting out, you'd have players that would play their match and then work in the afternoon, or play in the afternoon and work in the morning. They weren't just NRL players. Whereas nowadays that'd be absolutely insane. They're getting paid so much. Why would they work on that job?
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So it's in that grassroots stage. It's in that really just starting out area. I think in the coming years it should get bigger and bigger. It should continue growing at a steady path. But we can't really influence that. We can't just throw a bunch of money and be like, "Oh, this tournament's now $1 million and everyone should watch this." Because even if we add a lot of money to it, that's the object of money. The object of here, these guys are playing for a lot of money, isn't gonna bring in a casual viewer. That's not how you appeal to a new audience. You don't throw money at something. You have to just grow it over time and have word of mouth get into it, have advertisements, things like that, help build. Which is, I guess, is why they're so not as supportive as if if it was a real sport or something.
Yeah.
Because it's just untested water. Like, for all I know, StarCraft 2 could just drop out support, within half a year, and then I'd just be left in the dark. I'd have no marketable skills. I'd have to go back to university or just go back to working, which I'm not supposed to.
That was my next thing. Do you have a backup plan, so to speak? Like, have you finished uni, or are you doing uni now?
I didn't finish uni. I took a gap year when I left for Korea, and I've just kept playing since. But if I were to leave pro gaming, I'd probably be working at least part-time, if not full-time. I don't really want to go back to university at this stage. Maybe in the future, I'm not sure. I can't tell the future. But if I was going to stop pro gaming, I'd just start working most of the day. I mean, I'm not fussed. I'm doing this because it's something that I enjoy profusely.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you wake up and you don't do something you enjoy, that's not a life to me. That's not what you should be doing.
That's it. Cool. So we'll kick it off into the community questions now. So the first question here is from Dot. For you who don't know, that's Pig's girlfriend, and this will be a reason why this question has been asked. Does being in a relationship limit to how long, or if you even do plan on going to Korea, and if so, to what extent exactly?
Absolutely. The first time I was in Korea, the only reason I came back is because my girlfriend's there. It's as simple as that. That's why I came back. I couldn't stand being. I was away for probably around 3, maybe 4 months. It was hell, So that's why I came back. So it does limit if I could go over there. But if family isn't as much of a like, I can still contact my family. Like, for example, my brother is 10 meters down the hall, and I had a message to pass on to him. But instead of getting up and walking down the damn hall to him, I turned on Guild Wars 2, logged in, and whispered him. You know, that's the difference.
I love it.
Whereas I enjoy just seeing my girlfriend, sitting down, like watching movies, just relaxing.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that over the internet. You know, it's not something that can be done. So I mean, just as far as the question goes, absolutely.
So do you think, like, obviously, well, do you think potentially you could help, well, not help, but like bring your girlfriend over to Korea? Do you think that's an option? Or do you think, well, because you're in a team house, you're going to be playing games non-stop, like it's not really the way to go?
If we were going to go over, like, she'd have to be able to work, because we'd need to fund a house for her. You know, I can get into a team house for free easily. It's not an issue. The issue for her would be funding a house. Is it worth it? Does she want to do it? You know, it's not something that I can just be like, hey, you're coming with me now. It's something that she has to be interested in. When we met, she wasn't interested in gaming at all. She had no idea about it. Now she's just slowly warming up to it more and more. WCS was a big step up in it. But it's nothing that I'd ever force her into. That's why I'm not too fussed. In the future, maybe, but I can't say yes or no right now.
That's fair enough. So next question here is from Chadman, and he asked, what's it like being on a foreign team? So, you know, obviously a team that's not in Australia. Is it difficult in terms of management? Is it difficult in terms of organising stuff, you know, tournament, like money for tournaments, entry fees or flights or what have you? And if it has been, you know, has it been such an issue that you've decided, well, I can't do this anymore, I just might as well just join, you know, a domestic-based team? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a bit of an issue. I mean, first and foremost, contacting managers is tough just because of the time zone thing. Like, you know, I wake up and they're just going to bed and vice versa. Things like that. It can be worked around, but that's an issue. And usually American teams just won't really have an idea of Australian tournaments. So I'm organising most of that for myself. Like, they fund it, they do everything in their power to be supportive of it. But their main focus is always going to be the American market or the Korean market, or wherever they're mainly focused. So that is strenuous, is the best way to put it. I have to organise things myself, but they are supportive, of course.
I want to know if you can discuss about it, but why did you join It's GoSu, or why, I don't know how it all went down. Did they approach you? Did you approach them?
I approached them.
Okay, so why did you sign up for an international team? Was it just the best thing? Were they reluctant? Were they like, well, you're not living in America?
No, they weren't. I guess first thing is, I first met them at an MLG, and I just I spoke to them a bit at the MLG. And yeah, I knew a lot of their players already. At MLG Columbus, I actually got knocked out by one of their players, WBC.
Yep.
And I'd known him for 6 months at that stage. I knew him. He's actually an insanely nice guy. Everyone knows him as a cannon rossing cheesy that everyone hates. But he's such a nice guy. It's just impossible for me to hate him. Like, even if all he did was cannon rush me every game, I'd still like him. So I mean, back on track. Sorry, I'm just gonna get a little bit more comfortable. Put my legs up. Be sideways. You guys can get the side action. This is my good side. But to really answer the question, I talked to them, and they were actually really interested in getting an Australian player on board, because this is a market they haven't. This is an untouched market for them. Right? They already have enough players in the American scene that picking up more isn't really going to do a lot for them. They're picking up Korean players, which is going to get them into the Korean scene. They might eventually. And this is nothing they have actually said or been confirmed. This is just me speculating. They might eventually pick up European players, because that gets them into that market. So from their perspective, this is just a completely untouched market. When I approached them, they were all for it. They knew who I was, they knew my skill level, and they were, well, happy enough to pick me up straight away. So that was cool. But yeah, I think it's an untouched market for them, so they were pretty happy to get straight into it.
Do they like offer you flights to MLGs or something along those lines, or is it because you're in Australia, it's kind of like, well, there's, you know, it's kind of a a big investment to do so.
It's kind of hard to talk about this because it's contract stuff. People don't like talking about it, but I will say that the initial agreement is was because it's already been signed, not is. All Australian tournaments plus if it's economically feasible, get me to MLG and stuff. And at the stage that I signed the contract, and even right now, I'm not too fussed about going into an MLG because I know the cost of it. It's at very least around $4,000 to send an Australian player out to an MLG, which is insane. You know, $4,000 could fund a Korea stay for 2 to 3 months, right?
That's true.
Whereas MLG, you're sending the player there for probably a week for one tournament that, you know, you've got roughly 16 Koreans at least going into it. You know, it's a crazy investment, which is, on average, just isn't going to have much return. Which is why I just wasn't fussed about it. You know, I just wanted a team with good players. I wanted to be able to play in team leagues. I was given that opportunity with EGMC, ESEA, you know, all of that. That's what I was looking for. I got that. They were insanely helpful with all the Australian tournaments. For example, the first tournament I played under It's GoSu was actually the Arena LAN, even though I was first contracted on the It's GoSu January 27th, I believe. The Arena LAN, which was November, I think, November last year.
About that, yeah.
The It's GoSu manager was actually on Skype with me the whole time, for the whole finals. He was still talking to me the whole time. I you know, between games, I'd just be like, Terran's bullshit, you know, this and that happened, how do I beat him? I feel like 6-balling. And he'd just be like, you know what, if you feel like 6-ball's a good idea, just do it. He's like completely supportive. And if I did 6-ball that game, I would have won. You know?
I think I remember something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but like that's the sort of support that I did get for tournaments, so that was awesome. They were supportive of me whenever it was possible.
Yeah. Alright, so okay. I'm content with that. I'm cool with that. Alright. Next question here is from Ziggy D, and he asks, does the anger you, I guess, generate or have at the end of a game if you lose, or the excitement that you win, does it help you drive your competitive feeling and nature in like a series or something, or just even playing the game, or does it hurt you in return? So
it's a weird question. Initially it hurt me because I'd get really, really angry after losses and play worse, I believe. Like I'd be like, I lost it, this guy's awful, but I lost to him, which means I'm worse. And I just play badly. Nowadays I'm actually really controlled in my games. I don't let my emotions really affect what happens in the games. I mean, I show it outwardly, obviously. It's not something that I'm deliberately doing. It's not like, if I win, I'm going to be super happy, and if I lose, I'm going to be super sad. It's just that's just how I am. But I guess to answer the question, it doesn't really do much in terms of StarCraft. As in, like, as an immediate effect, it doesn't really hinder what I'm going to do next game. I even spoke to a few people at WCS. And going into games, I said to them, I'm going to go 15 hatch, 10-4 in that order, regardless of what happens. Like that was my plan going into the series, was to do those 3 build orders at that time. Like it wasn't as if I was doing weird things. Sure, if I scouted a huge flaw in someone's gameplay, I would abuse it, much like I did versus Light on Entome Valley. I scouted that he was doing this really greedy build with fast forges, and initially my plan was to just go 3 hatch roach link. But once I scouted that and looked at the replay and looked at the build order, I just slowly main busted it. So the emotion of the competitiveness, how competitive I am, it does help me. I go back through replays, I go through build orders, I spend a lot of time before tournaments checking matches and trying to work out any flaw in my opponent's play. And that does stem back to the competitiveness, but it's not really my emotions that does that. I'm sure that they do help me in my competitiveness. I hate losing. I will come out and say that. If you put me in a show match, no money on the line, I will still try my damn best to win. I'm not going to screw around. It shows in the random versus randoms that I play. I've played a lot of those. I am competitive, I will work my ass off in every damn game. But that's just me. And I guess at the end of the day, it does help me.
So, what about if you... does it still help you if you're on a losing streak, for example? Or do you just kind of... say, for example, if you're laddering. I know laddering probably doesn't really, line up to a a tournament or whatever. But if you're on a losing streak on ladder, do you just go stuff it? I'm done for the day and do something else, or?
Not for the day. I just I log like after 3 losses in a row. Usually I'll just take a break.
Yeah.
I'll just play like a game of League of Legends. I'll just chill out with some friends on mobile. If I play more than that, I found I start to break stuff, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Fun fact, my mouse is actually really weirded out right now, but this isn't from me breaking it, this is actually just it being broken. I can't actually show what's happened to it, but yeah, it's a little bit messed up. But that wasn't from rage, you know, this is just wear and tear at this stage. But yeah, if I play more than like 5 games in a row and I lose all 5, I get pretty damn angry, and I have to take a break. I have to force myself to take a break, or else I will start breaking things.
Fair enough. So this next question comes in from Lorne Burnsy, and it's kind of the same thing, so I'll just read it out and we'll see where you can take from it. Some would say that you are probably the most emotional gamer in C, and that you have your emotions on your sleeve when playing. Do you perceive yourself as a very emotional gamer, and does it affect the way you play and make it harder to get over a loss or to come back in the series?
It's sort of a different question, but I did sort of cover it. What was the question again? I don't know. I completely forgot already. It's such a long
I tried to like pick out. I don't know.
Can you just copy paste it into the Skype? That would be so much easier. Like that question was so long.
Okay, hang on.
I could have won a game of StarCraft 2 in that question.
Do you? God damn it. Do you perceive yourself as a very emotional gamer, and does it affect the way you play? Yep. And does it make it harder to get over a loss or come back in a series?
Okay, alright, so I've got that. Okay, do I perceive myself as an emotional gamer / person? Yes. Does it affect my games? No, I covered that earlier. Does it make it harder to come back from a loss? Like I said, initially it did, but now I've played enough to really put that in the back of the head. But it does, at the end of the day, really help me, because I am so competitive. Yeah. I absolutely despise losing, like I said before. So yeah, at the end of the day, it does make me a little bit more competitive.
I want to ask, because I've always said that I love seeing passion in esports and emotion coming out from players, and you're you're just the only one in, probably not the only one, but one of the most vocal / emotional players that C has. Is it just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Is it just like, were you kind of shy when you first started playing games, and like just not shy? It just happened?
I mean, back when I played Counter-Strike when I was like 12, yeah, I was kind of shy. I wouldn't use a microphone. Mostly because in Counter-Strike, if you haven't hit puberty, you are the butt of every single joke in the world.
Yeah.
But when StarCraft 2 came out, I wasn't really shy. I think a lot of people know how vocal I was in the first few months of the game. They put me up there as one of the most vocal people in the community. They didn't really like me, but at the end of the day, I don't really care who does and doesn't like me. I'm going to be myself regardless. Yeah, I guess just the way to say it is I wasn't really shy when I started out in StarCraft, but starting out in gaming, I was.
Yeah.
But even when I was like 12, I still hated losing. Like I
don't think anyone likes losing.
No, yeah, people don't like losing, but I hate losing. Like, we can play for fun, and I'm still gonna try. All right.
Nice. So
we can play on touchpads, and I will still try.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
And yes, that happened.
Really?
Yes,
how do you play with touchpad? I don't understand.
It was at WCS, the first year we were there. None of us wanted to unpack our gear. We thought we were just going to go straight away out. So me and Tech were like, random versus random, best of 3 on touchpads. Like, okay, deal. They were the worst games ever. But I won!
Oh, man. Okay, fair enough. So we have a kind of a bonus question from Lord Burnsy again. He just says, I guess I'll just kind of chop it up and make it my own thing, but what's it like playing in offline events at a LAN event? Is it kind of, you probably have a lot of experience with playing outside of your own home, so, you know, taking your gear there, setting up, sitting down at a random table, making sure your settings are done, is the screen right, you know, making it as realistic as possible or as close to how you have it at home. Does it kind of, like, hamper your skills at the start?
You need to get used to it if you're going to pro gaming properly. This is something that I I always think Pig needs to improve on.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Pig. He's a great bloke. I've travelled with him to many events in Australia, but he takes way too long to set up at events, and I understand why. And I think it's good reasoning. Like he wants, like you said, to get it as close to possible to his home setting. But when you go to things like an MLG or a GSL or really anything international, they don't care. They give you a set amount of time, and if you're not done, that's it. You are done. You get forfeited.
Yeah.
So you really need to just be ready to set up things to not 100%. You get to like 95%. You get to like, alright, this feels pretty much like what it is at home. Your sensitivity, all of your actual computer settings are easy. You can write those down, you can remember them. I know exactly what my sensitivity and everything like that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I can change that at every LAN event. As for like desk height, monitor height, chair height, things like that, sometimes you just have to deal with it. Sometimes you just have to sit down and be like, well, this is sort of awkward, but you know, I just have to deal with it. I got to get into the games. I got to start playing. So having as much LAN experience as I do, yeah, that does help. You know, I'm more used to just moving around. A good story to tell about this would be actually in Korea. We needed the GOM house. We were Unstable and Railkun were casting one of the FXO invitationals, and we couldn't actually play in the house, like because mechanical keyboards and such are so loud. The mic would have picked all of the background noise up.
Right.
So we had to go to a LAN center and practice for that whole day. And I was like, man, this sucks. You know, I have to move all my stuff and set up just for a couple hours of practice. But at the end of the day, it's good practice for just getting used to it, because when you go to GSTL or GSL or the qualifiers, you have to set up and be ready to play within 10 minutes, or else they will forfeit games off you.
Alright, fair enough. So that pretty much does it for the questions. Do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap this up?
Shout out to my sponsors at GoSu.tgun, I believe it is. I don't know, just Google it, find it. They're all on there. They're all great sponsors, etc. I'm really bad at plugging sponsors. I hate doing it. I feel that if people like me enough or know enough about my team, they will find out the sponsors enough. Anyway, me giving specific shout outs isn't a huge thing, but anyway. Shout out, as I said, to Clan OD. They were supportive as hell when I first started playing. They were a very good stepping stone for me, and I still talk to all of them this day. Shout outs to FX Open for all they did for me. I still thank them for what they did. If I didn't join them, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. And that's about it. Shout out to Chocolate Milk, and shout out to Cam's mom.
Cool. Alright. So thanks guys for tuning in. We'll post up another thread for episode number 3 with who it's going to be and the questions and all that stuff. So all that good stuff. And tell us if you like the episode. What are you doing? Let me full screen this. Hang on. There we go. Oh man, dude, I seriously think that's the greatest picture of you ever.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Oh damn it! So yeah, so tell us what you think of the show, how we can improve, and all that good stuff, as well as
oh god, it's coming right for it.
Oh god damn it! Thanks guys. We'll see you next time.